Hey team, welcome to another Bullpen Bulletin with Coach Hart and Building Better Baseball. Today we are learning how to properly lead off of first base, second base, and third base. So there's a couple things that we need to do to take the most advantage to get to the next base so we can get around the diamond to score some runs. And I'm going to take you through those today. Remember, I'm Coach Hart. This is Building Better Baseball. This is the best place for baseball education. So let's get into the leading off of the bases. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is how to properly lead off of first base. So there are two main things that you want to think about when you're leading off of first. The number one thing, never take your eyes off of the pitcher. As soon as you get off of the base and you don't have contact with the base, they can pick you off and you can get out. So always keep your eyes on the pitcher no matter what, all right? So once you're on your base, you've gotten your signs from your third base coach. The second thing is you always want to start with your left foot first, okay? Left foot first, and this is how it looks, all right? You're gonna be here, you're ready to take your lead. You step with your left foot first, and then your right, and then you're gonna take two shuffle steps, kind of two shuffles to get away from the bag a little bit more, all right? You're gonna do your shuffle, shuffle, all right? That is a good standard lead every single time you get off the base, all right? And there's a couple little things I want to explain here. The reason we want to do our left foot first is because if we started with our right foot first, right, that would mean that our next step would be left. Now, if we take a left foot here, it is much harder to turn around if they pick us off. It is much harder to turn around and get back to the bag because we are working across our body, okay? Now, if we start with our left foot first, our back foot is still on the bag. So even if they pick off, we are still in contact with the bag, so we can't get out. Now, as soon as we take our second step, here we are ready for a pickoff where we can easily turn back and slide back, all right? So it's really important, left foot first. So we go here and we go left foot first, right, shuffle, shuffle, all right? And then we get settled and we get ready, all right? From that position, left, right, shuffle, shuffle, we are a good distance away from the bag where we can still turn and dive back to the bag, but we are also in a position where we can easily steal, right? One thing you want to think about is you want to stay balanced when you are leading off of the bag. So a lot of kids, when they start leading, they get a little nervous and they start like leaning back to the bag like this. The other team, they know that you're not going to steal if you're leaning back to the bag, right? So you don't want to give that away. If you're leaning back like this, they know you're not going to steal. But also, we don't want to give away a steal or not get back to the bag in time by leaning this way, right? Make sure you stay balanced here and you are ready to go either to steal or to go back, all right? And one quick little tip, whenever you dive back to a bag, you want to dive back to the back corner of the bag right here, because that's the farthest throw for the pitcher, right? That's the distance that the ball has to travel the farthest if you dive back to the back corner of the bag, all right? Now, we're done with first base. We know how to lead properly off of first base. Let's move on to second. All right, we're moving on to second base. Now we're going to properly lead off of second base. So for second base, there are two ways that I like to lead off of second base. One of them is you could be right in the baseline and do exactly what we did at first base with the left, right, shuffle, shuffle. So we can do here like this. We would go left, right, shuffle, shuffle, and that is a good distance. All right, we are still in the baseline. We are ready to steal third if we need to. All right, and the one thing that I don't necessarily like about this lead is it's really hard to see the second baseman and the shortstop of where they are, and if the shortstop's coming around you for a pickoff, or even the second baseman, right? So that's one way that you could lead. You could do exactly what we did on first base, left, right, shuffle, shuffle, stay in the baseline, and it's the same thing, right? The other way that I like to lead, and what I did when I played, was kind of like a drift lead, all right? And I'll explain what that means. So what we do is we're here, and we kind of drift back out of the baseline, sort of back towards the shortstop back here, all right? and we are ready to get back. We're close enough where we can get back on a pickoff. But as you are back here, this is before the pitch, right? You can see the second baseman very clearly on where he is, and you're closer to the shortstop where you can either hear his feet. He has to kind of work around you. You're making it a little harder for him to get to the bag, all right? What you do if you do the drift lead, right? You go here and you kind of do like this, left, right, shuffle, shuffle. You're back behind the baseline and you're kind of just creeping up like this, all right? You're kind of moving up, paying attention to second base, hearing shortstop, keeping your eyes on the pitcher. If they pick off, you go back, all right? But like I said, this little drift lead where you're kind of drifting forward, right? You end up, when the pitcher pitches the ball, you end up back in the baseline where you originally should have been, right? So that's one little technique that you could do. And the reason I like that, like I said, is because you can see the second baseman very clearly. You're keeping your eyes on the pitcher, but you're also making it a little tougher for the shortstop to get around you, and you can hear the shortstop much clearer rather than being up here and not really knowing where he is, right? So one more time with the drift lead. So you're kind of like this. You kind of do a left, right, shuffle, shuffle. You're kind of back behind the baseline and the pitcher's looking at you. You're hearing the shortstop, kind of making it tough, looking at the second baseman, and you're kind of just creeping or drifting up into the baseline. And then once the pitcher pitches the ball, you're here, right? You're back right in the baseline where you originally should have been. So those are the two ways that you can lead properly off the second base. One of them is the left, right, shuffle, shuffle like we did at first, but also you could come back here like this, see the shortstop, see the second base, kind of creeping forward. You're active, you're moving, right? You could get back if you need to, but then once the pitcher pitches the ball, you're in the baseline, and then you can steal if you need to on a pass ball or anything like that. Those are the two ways that you can properly lead off of second base. Now, last one, let's move on to third base. All right, we're moving on to third base, all right? Now, the most important thing at third base when you are leading, the one thing you have to remember is down and foul, back and fair, all right? Down and foul, back and fair. Leading off of third base is a little different than the other two bases. It's going to be a little shorter initial lead, but then your secondary lead is going to be much bigger, and I'll explain what that means, all right? Now, down and foul, back and fair. What I mean is that when you are here, you're kind of right here, and you are shuffling, and you are staying in foul territory. That is so, so, so important to stay in foul territory the entire time as the pitch goes in, because, can you think of it? Because if the batter hits the ball and it ends up hitting you, if you are in foul territory, then you are not out. It's just a foul ball, and it probably hurts a little bit, right? But if you lead off and you are in fair territory and that ball hits you, then you can be out. All right, that's the most important thing at third base. Down and foul, back and fair. So down and foul, we got that down. We're here in foul territory, right? We go here. As soon as the pitcher pitches the ball, we kind of move into fair territory, right? And then the catcher has it, and we are working our way back in fair territory. The reason we want to be in fair territory is to block a catcher's throw and to make sure that you make the throw as hard as possible for a catcher, all right? If you are in foul territory when the catcher catches the ball, the catcher has a very clear throw to third base to try and get you out. We don't want that. We want to make it as hard as possible. So when you go down and foul, you're protecting yourself from a hit ball to make sure it's foul and you're not out. But also, once the catcher gets it, you're going to move kind of into fair territory to block the catcher's throw if he decides to try and pick you off at third. All right? So that's the reasoning behind down and foul, back and fair. All right? We want to stay in foul for the hit ball. We want to obstruct a throw or make a throw harder for a catcher when they're trying to pick us off. All right? And the last thing I want to cover is our secondary lead at third base. So when you take your primary lead, it's going to be a little shorter, all right? A little shorter like this. The reason we want a little bit shorter lead is because we're at third base. We're one base away from scoring. We don't want to get out, All right, the worst thing we could do is take a large lead and then get picked off, and then that's it, right? So take a little bit shorter lead just to protect yourself, because you are at third base, you're one base away from scoring, right? Now, you're a little shorter primary lead. As the pitcher pitches the ball, you're working your way into fair territory, but you're also taking a larger secondary, so you're gonna be like this and here, all right? When you take your last step for the secondary like this, like that, that is when the ball should be crossing the plate and the catcher catches it, all right? You are really gonna be active at third base. You never wanna stand around and get caught looking or caught standing, right? So your lead is gonna be here, a little bit shorter primary right here, and then once the pitcher pitches it, you're gonna take your secondary like this, and then once the ball crosses the plate, you're gonna be here, and then as soon as the catcher has it, work into fair territory and kind of work your way back, all right? There is no reason to kind of play with the catcher, all right? You don't want to risk anything, all right? So on your little primary, you take your secondary, you're here, all right? And the reason you want to kind of be all on your front foot, ready to go, is for a pass ball, right? You want to be able to go as soon as you see a pass ball and be able to run and score. So that's why on your secondary, you want to be like this, and then boom. That's when the catcher catches the ball. As soon as you see the catcher secure it, work your way into fair territory and work your way back to the bag, all right? So a couple things with third base: down and foul, back and fair, all right? You don't want to be hit by a ball. You want to make a catcher's throw as hard as possible. Also, short primary, you don't want to risk getting out or picked off because you're one base away from scoring. Also, when your secondary hits and the ball crosses the plate, that's when you have the end of your secondary and you're kind of leaning towards home plate. As soon as you see the ball secure by the catcher, work your way into fair territory and just kind of work your way back, all right? So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're a coach, this is a perfect way to teach young players who are just learning how to lead off of the bases. And if you're a player, you can try to incorporate this into your skill set when you're on the base paths and you're working on your base running, all right? So before we go, don't forget to grab your free guide. I made a whole bunch of them. They're down in the description. I made them for you for free to help you out in your baseball journey. So grab one, grab all, grab whatever you think will be helpful for you. And remember, this is Building Better Baseball, Coach Hart, the best place for baseball education. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in another video real soon.